Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just if there's anybody on the panel that disagrees with me, say something. Are any of you four gentlemen at all satisfied with where we are at with this economic recovery? Is anybody satisfied with how this recovery is going?
Absolutely not. It's the worst economic recovery since the Great Depression. I've written on that recently, Forbes.com.
Dr. Bailey, are you satisfied with where we're at?
I'm not satisfied, but I would say that the administration, the Obama administration, should get a lot of credit for having turned things around. The banking system, the financial system did not fail. It was sustained.
Are you, Dr. Bailey,
the economy stopped falling.
Are you satisfied?
It fell like a stone.
I'll give you a chance. Are you satisfied with where this recovery's at?
Would I like it to be stronger? No, I'm not satisfied. It's still too weak.
Dr. Jacoby?
No.
Mr.
I don't think we've had a recovery, so no.
And that's a common perception.
Yeah, and as Mr. Ferrara pointed out, historically, the more severe the recession, the quicker and the more potent the recovery. And again, I think it's fairly safe to say that when it comes to economic growth and job growth, this is easily the most anemic recovery we've had since the Great Depression. And so what I want to figure out is why is that? What has this administration done, or not done enough of, or done too much of? We're all not satisfied to varying levels of degree here with where we're at. Be as concise as each of you can be. Why do we sit here in the midst of an historically weak recovery, if you in fact want to call it a recovery? Why are we where we're at? Try to be as concise as each of you can be. Let's start down at that end.
I think we're actually living the 1930s all over again, because it was a recession that was extended through government action, and there were just asinine programs started during that time period that kept this country in a recession until after World War II, when there was a change in the Congress.
So to paraphrase, too much government.
Absolutely.
Dr. Bailey, why are we, what have we not done enough of? What have we done too much of? Why are we where we're at right now?
I think we're where we're at because this recession was very different from the earlier ones in the post-war period, because it had this incredible housing bubble, and housing prices have dropped 30%. We lost $14–15 trillion worth of household wealth. We don't have residential construction as a lift to the economy. Consumers don't have the value in their homes, which allows them to feel more confident and spend more. And so I think the only thing that could have been done more was more emphasis on trying to turn around the housing market, although the truth of the matter is it's a very hard thing to do. And so inevitably we were going to get a long recession. The other thing was that if we had not had deficits coming into this recession. In other words, when I was chairman of the Council of Economic Advisors, we had a 2% of GDP surplus in the budget. And if that had not been squandered in 2 large tax cuts, we would have come in with more ammunition to deal with this downturn.
Mr. Ferrara.
I discussed in my testimony each of the 4 components of Reaganomics. And the reason we have no recovery is that Obamanomics is following the opposite of every one of those 4 components of Reaganomics. Next year, I talked about Reagan reduced the tax rates. Next year, you have already scheduled in current law increases in the top tax rates of virtually every major federal tax. The only one left out is the corporate income tax, which is already virtually the highest in the industrialized world and is already too high. Instead of reducing regulatory burdens, we have increases in regulatory burdens. Instead of reducing government spending, we have massive increases in government spending. Instead of a strong dollar monetary policy, we have a weak dollar monetary policy. So that is why we have no recovery.
Dr. Jacoby.
The recession since World War II and since the Great Depression have had a housing cycle embedded in it. This time we had a financial crisis. I don't think people have adequately assessed the financial crisis and therefore haven't adequately assessed what needs to be done to change that. But the big problem is the finance system is not working the way we want, particularly in housing. And I think that's the key of the problem.
Mr. Ferrara, one final quick question for you. Dr. Bailey testified that Obamacare will actually help small businesses and won't increase their costs, which I find mind-boggling. Would you care to comment?
Yeah, I think Obamacare is very detrimental to small business. It's already increasing health costs. And so, it's not just, in addition to the point that was made about the companies just above the threshold, there's also a negative impact on companies just below the threshold that don't want to grow up to 50 and above. And so it's reducing job growth in that way as well. And what you've seen is instead of increases moderating, they seem to be accelerating, which is what I predicted in my book.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.